Well, joining us to recap all the events from the NHL Draft is Evan Kenny. Evan, it was a pretty exciting draft to say the least. Lots of picks in the first round, as well as lots of big trades, which we'll get to touch on in a little bit there. But Evan, what are some key points that stood out to you as the draft went on through that Friday and Saturday?
Yeah, Connor, definitely a little bit of a crazy draft. Really not like a draft that we've seen before when it comes to the NHL. Obviously, a number of different leagues across the world this year weren't even playing hockey. So for these scouts, they really had to do their due diligence and, get some research, find out a little more about these guys and go back couple of years and really find out, who they're taking just because, a lot of these players weren't on the ice the past year. Now, Connor, for the first time ever, 3 players from one NCAA school were all picked in the first round. And not only that, they were all picked in the first 5 spots there with Matt Beniers, Owen Power, and as well then Luke Hughes was taken as well there. So, great showing from University of Michigan there as well. Canada, 40% of the players taken in this draft were from Canada. 3 of those being from the AJHL. Corson Kuhlman's going in the first round, 25th overall to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Tage Harding from the Fort McMurray Oil Barons went 91st to the Chicago Blackhawks. And then finally, Taylor McCarr will be joining his brother Cale McCarr with the Colorado Avalanche. He was taken 220th overall. So a little bit of family connections there. But all in all, Connor, it'll be interesting to see, how this draft really plays out in the coming years.
And of course, don't forget Kent Johnson is that other Michigan Wolverine who went in the first round as well as Colton Dach. Kirby Dach's brother was also drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks in the second round. So great family ties, like you said. And, draft day wouldn't be draft day, Evan, without trades. And boy, we got a lot of trades leading up to the draft. We'll start with Rasmus Ristolainen to the Philadelphia Flyers for Robert Hagg, their first round pick this year, as well as a second round pick next year. I was very surprised with the return on Ristolainen. He hasn't played well the last little bit here, and he is a UFA at the end of the year. So I guess the question is, Evan, did the Flyers overpay for Ristolainen?
See, I've heard different things from different people. Like you said, Connor, you were surprised there. I'm not actually that surprised. I mean, Rasmus Ristolainen, he's had a couple down years. He's played on a down team, though, in the Buffalo Sabres. You got to think he's still only 26 years old. He's 6'4", 220 pounds, and can skate, Connor, as well. He has that offensive upside. In 4 out of his 7 full-time NHL seasons, he's put up a minimum of 40 points. So this is still a player who can contribute, especially now you look at the Philadelphia Flyers' top 4 defensemen. I think he'll fit in well there, maybe put him with a defensive guy, like a guy like Justin Braun, who the Philadelphia Flyers have already. Now, I don't know if the return was too much per se. Obviously a first round pick this season, a 2023 second round pick, as well as defenseman Robert Hagg, maybe a little pricey, but when you're getting, arguably a top pairing defenseman, you got to pay a little extra.
And then, of course, when you mean by pay extra, I guess that's an understatement or an over-exaggeration, rather, with Seth Jones, as that trade finally happened to the Chicago Blackhawks from the Blue Jackets, and Blue Jackets got Adam Boqvist, a first-round pick this year, or the past draft, and then heading into 2022, as well as a second-round pick. And then, of course, Seth Jones signs that massive 8-year, $9.5 million per year extension. Then Ekman Larson goes to Vancouver at least now $7.26 million, as Arizona does retain some salary. What do you make of those big trades, especially with that price tag that comes from both those defensemen?
Yeah, just starting things off, Connor, with Chicago and Seth Jones there. I think Seth Jones is one of the most elite defensemen in the NHL right now. I would probably put him in my top 5 personally. So this is a fantastic player. Now, I'm not quite sure if this is the right move for Chicago. Just looking at Chicago, they're in that little bit of a rebuild right now, right? Some of their top players, Alex DeBrincat, Kirby Dach, these are some young guys as well. Looking at their D-core, they have a very young D-core. One of those guys was Adam Boqvist, who is going the other way. So I do like that return for Columbus. I'm just not sure if this is the right time for Chicago to be making this big deal. But at the same time, they have him for 9 years now, and Seth Jones is a fantastic defenseman, so he's a good piece that the Blackhawks should be building around. Now, if we take a look at the Vancouver-Arizona deal here, Connor, I don't like this one nearly as much. Obviously, Vancouver gave up a little bit of cap to get those 2 players in Connor Garland and Oliver Ekman Larson. I think they might have overpaid here a little bit.
Yeah, and it'll be a couple years that until we see this maybe hurting the Canucks long term. Of course, they dumped some bad contracts like Louis Eriksson and Jay Beagle and Antoine Roussel, who all have 1 year left on their deal. So lots of cap space will free up for Arizona. So one of the last things, Evan, just as we recap the draft as a whole, what team in your mind stood out as a winner for you?
Well, actually, Connor, I think there was a number of different teams. Different teams had different agendas coming into this draft. But for me, anytime a team has 3 first-round picks, and as well, not just 3 first-round picks, but executes well on those picks, I think they got to be a winner. So for me, the Columbus Blue Jackets, they went in with the idea, they're in a full rebuild. They got young pieces there. Let's keep going with this. So they meant a couple guys that we already mentioned, Kent Johnson going with their first one. Cole Sillinger was taken with that pick that they got from Chicago at number 12, who I think maybe could be their best first-round pick there. He's got a real NHL-style game. And then finally, Corson Kuhlman's from the Brooks Bandits. I just think they did a good job of diversifying within that first round, but as well executing and picking some fantastic players.
And for me, if I had to pick somebody, Evan, I'd say the Detroit Red Wings, of course. They did get Alex Nedeljkovic earlier in that before the draft. Basically, they stole him from Carolina, getting him at 2 years and $3 million per year. And then you look at the pick, Simon Edvinsson, a really good mobile defenseman who will probably grow into that body and play good with Moritz Seider down the road, another top Red Wings prospect. And then, of course, the goalie, Sebastian Cossa, who was 6'6", played for the Edmonton Oil Kings, was one of the best goalies in the WHL with that shortened season. He's got lots of potential. And fun thing, of course, with Steve Yzerman, last time he took a goalie with the first pick in the first round that was 6'6", was Andrei Vasilevsky, and we all know how he turned out being a Stanley Cup champion. Evan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Connor. Should be exciting, watching these players develop in the future.